Hello, and welcome to the Breaking Your Cycle series for natural hormone healing to ease pain, boost energy, and create happy menstrual cycles. This is your straight up resource with practical advice that'll take you one step closer to relieving your hormone woes. But before we begin, let's commit to make a deal to just taking one action after you watch this interview. I'm your host, Nicholas Smith, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Nina Lemtir. Nina helps women reclaim their health and lives through her fibroid freedom formula. With a holistic approach, she guides women to overcome womb health challenges, particularly fibroids, using strategies that focus on natural healing, nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset. Hello, Nina. Welcome.
Hi, Nicola. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really
Thank you
excited.
so much for being here today. I'm really excited about this interview. It's a big topic that is going to help a lot of women. But before we dive into the topic, could you give us like a brief overview, introduce yourself to the listeners, and what led you to do what you do?
Sure, Nicola. Thank you. So, my name's Nina Lemtir, and I'm a nutrition lifestyle strategist. And I basically found myself in this space because I had to help myself many years ago now, about over 10 years now. And I'd faced a situation that I obviously wasn't expecting. And it forced me to reevaluate my life, my health, my approach to, I suppose, wellness. And that was fibroids. So I got diagnosed with fibroids, had no clue what they were, got no information upon diagnosis, not even a pamphlet. So it was really daunting, very worrying. Um, and I had to go through the process of having them removed. And basically, that was so traumatizing that I had to change everything when I got through that procedure. And it's been 10 years now. I've not felt better. I've never felt as good as I do compared to my 20s, where I was just exhausted all the time. And I've got three beautiful children, fibroids, nowhere in sight, even though I was told by consultants that there was a high chance they'd grow back. But I'm a testimony to the fact that lifestyle, nutrition, and just being aware and being proactive makes a huge difference in the persistence and the reoccurrence of fibroids. So that's how I got into this space. I found that women would often ask me, what I was doing and how I was helping myself, and I was always kind of pointing them to various resources. And over time, I suppose it was more of a snowball effect. I kind of evolved the resources that I was sharing with women, and that's how my workshop developed, and that's how I really just got into helping women globally.
Oh, that's such an amazing testimony. Lots of relatable things there from obviously having diagnosed with fibroids, not really knowing what they are, having them removed, and then also being told as well that you it would be hard for you to conceive, but you've done that successfully three times. So
Yeah,
that's
and yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to say that they left some behind at my request,
okay.
because they basically told me that I'd have a hysterectomy if I bled too much. They'd take out my
Right, okay.
uterus, and I just was so scared that I wouldn't be able to have kids and that be a possibility. So I asked them to not take out all the fibroids. So they left quite a few behind, quite sizable sizes of fibroids. And I shrunk those over the years as well. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been a journey.
Incredible. Can't wait to dive in to how you did that. But I think thank you for sharing that. I think a great place to start would be what exactly are fibroids? So for anyone that might be listening, I feel like a lot of women, we've heard that term and we don't really know what they actually are. So could you give us like a brief overview of that?
Yeah, sure. So fibroids are non-cancerous benign tumors,
Mhm.
and most of them are non-cancerous, thankfully. There's a very small percentage that might be cancerous. And they grow in and out of the uterus. They are particularly more prevalent during childbearing years. So That's the kind of time frame. And a lot of women will have them and not even be aware because they don't have any, they're asymptomatic, they don't have any symptoms, they have kids quite easily, so they don't actually pick up on them. And then, of course, there'll be women that they are very disruptive, in regards to day to day life, menstrual activity, etc., fertility. So they're basically non-cancerous tumors that grow in the uterus and outside the uterus.
Yeah. Do we know what the the cause is? What actually causes obviously I know that there's a which this summit is about hormones, hormonal imbalance there, but what actually causes them to develop and grow?
Yeah, there's no conclusive kind of answer as
Yeah.
yet. What we know is that there are significant variables that contribute to the persistence of them. So,
Okay.
if you've got them growing quite rapidly, it's down to, well, what's been noted is hormonal imbalances through whether that's contraception, it's that disruption, genetics. So you
Yeah.
might be genetically more prone because you've got it in your family, um, and also just the increase in like chemicals via like plastics. So how we're consuming toxins through um, various sources like cleaning products,
Yeah.
plastics, and things like that. So it's quite a few variables that contribute. There's no one straight answer, but what we know is diet, hormone management is a key player in, and nutrition levels as well is a key contributing factor to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of like symptoms and kind of warning signs that you might have them, what should women kind of look out for? What's a very high indicator that you might be dealing with fibroids?
Yeah, sure. So the key ones are your menstrual flow.
Mm,
I think when if you are heavy, you can be told that it's normal. It's normal to be heavy or experience pain, but actually it's not normal. So extreme heavy flow that is not comfortable and seems excessive is a sign to get checked. And also pain, excessive pain that is very debilitating, kind of stopping you from doing day to day tasks is a potential sign as well. Pressure when you're trying to ease yourself with your bladder, like anything around that area, are telltale signs, constipation, things like that.
yeah. Okay. With the pain, is it pain throughout the whole menstrual cycle or particularly around the period, or is it both?
With the pain, because if you're having pain before your period starts, then that's kind of opening up other possible conditions
Yeah.
like endometriosis, adenomyosis. So I would say any kind of pain. And if you are having pain before your period starts, then again, that's not normal. And
Yeah.
you should start to track that and explore that because there could be other conditions other than fibroids
Yeah.
that are, yeah, that are prevalent there.
Okay, great. Okay, so just like switching gears now, focusing on diet and nutrition, 'cause you mentioned it a bit earlier. Um, what is the impact on of diet on fibroids and that kind of hormonal imbalances?
So diet plays a key role, particularly if your nutrition isn't kind of where it should be. And
Mm,
a lot of us, you have to be kind of introduced to, I suppose, the world of nutrition.
yeah.
And I know I wasn't from my mum, she had no clue either. So if you kind of grow not being aware, and then when you look at the quality of our food being compromised as well, the nutrients in fruits and vegetables today is not what it was 100, 200 years ago. So
Yeah.
if you're not supplementing and you're kind of just eating, more processed foods, then this puts you in an area of risk.
Mhm.
Um, so if your diet is predominantly processed or you're not really proactive and you're not supplementing, you just need to think about your body and its needs. And if it's not getting what it needs for kind of chronic periods of time, then eventually conditions will, like fibroids, start to surface because the environment has been very conducive for them. So a very kind of acidic environment,
Yeah.
particularly due to like dairy based products, high sugar products. And because everything is almost converted into sugar, you could not actually been having sugary type foods, but you might be having lots of carbohydrates, quick carbohydrates that are converted into sugars. So when you're having that for a long period of time, combined with the lack of right nutrition, then this puts you, at risk basically to the persistence of fibroids or any other conditions.
Yeah, yeah. It's so unfortunate that the environments that we live in is just toxic in
Yeah,
every way. There's
basically.
it's like we can't catch a break, whether it's like you said, the food that we eat, even if we are trying to eat fruits and vegetables,
Yeah,
the nutrition and the nutrient value is so much lower than it was back in the day.
yeah.
And then also, like you said, being conscious and intentional in seeking out certain types of foods. So in terms of healing fibroids, then what should one's diet look like? What are some of the top foods that one should be eating to support that healing, shrink the fibroids? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So it really is about not just getting the tools, but also how you put them together. So
Mm,
having a set routine that takes the body through a process as the day, progresses.
yeah,
So having a morning routine that supports, cleaning out the buildup of toxins and residue, obviously whilst you've been sleeping. So just cleaning that out with like water, drinking a large glass of water to kind of start your day, get your digestive system going, and then having a good probiotics to support again your gut health with that process. Having a prebiotic is great to again support your gut health, support what your body's doing in the morning. Following through with not I don't like to say heavy food, but because you might be a breakfast type person, but just be mindful of the types of foods. So you want to go for like low sugary foods, higher protein, and just have the right combination. And then obviously taking the key supplements like turmeric, chasteberry, vitex, um, and just a whole multivitamin. I personally like a natural existing supplement, which is bee pollen in the morning, which
okay,
has natural nutrients, vitamins, trace elements, and it's easily absorbed into the body as well, and it doesn't impact your glucose levels.
yeah,
So that's a great way to kind of trick your body in regards to having food, but not food, where it has to use energy to break it down. So that's a great way to support the body to clean, but then get what you need in regards to protein, vitamins, minerals, etc. So that's the kind of ideal morning, I suppose, routine. Um, and then just making sure you're eating foods that are high in fiber, have, naturally occurring whole foods. So your plate should look as colourful as possible, cruciferous vegetables in moderation, and just making sure you're getting the fibre naturally. Juicing is great. I often hear about women juicing to try and shrink. You need to be really careful because juicing is not a natural form for the body. You've removed all the fiber and you just got
yeah,
basically sugar. So you need to be
mhm,
careful with juicing. But if you're having like a smoothie, which I would recommend because you've got the fiber, stick with leafy green vegetables like spinach, kale. These are great items to have around lunchtime, along with your good proteins and fiber. So just whole foods and keep your portions small as well because this will help with digestion and also just keeping you more kind of optimized because sometimes we think we need to have a whole kind of heavy meal, but actually eating 2 3 hours every 2 3 hours smaller size meals is ideal to keep the energy constant, reduces unnecessary snacking. So that's a great step as well, and just making sure you're supplementing kind of midday, late afternoon with some boosting natural supplements, and this will be great to reduce any caffeine dependency. So if you find that you're reaching for a coffee, you could be having a matcha, something, again, bee pollen, that will just keep your energy nice and natural and not spike your glucose levels. And then dinner should be lighter than lunch, ideally. And again, same principles, as I mentioned earlier, just keep it whole food based, avoid processed foods. And this is a really ideal kind of structure. But obviously, listen to your body and make it work for you. And anything in excess is not good. So even the cruciferous vegetables, you need to be careful, because that can be a bit disruptive to your digestive system if you have too much of it.
Oh, thank you so much for that overview. That was really helpful. I loved the point that you made about in the start, when you wake up, having water.
Mm.
It's so key, but a lot of people forget that our body is dehydrated when we wake
Yes.
up, and we've been without food, without drink for hours,
Mm.
and it needs some form of hydration. And then also the point about eating a breakfast. A lot of women skip that, but it's such an important meal. So make sure you get that in and take those tips from Nina. So just moving on to herbs, and you mentioned earlier as well supplements. Which ones have you found to be most effective for yourself? You mentioned a few, but also for like clients that you've worked with.
Yeah, the main ones, vitamin D with K2, it's essential. Your B vitamins, particularly if you've reduced animal protein like myself, and really strategically supplementing high antioxidants, so berries. So I've
Mm.
got a supplement that it's like having a huge bowl of blueberries and lots of different berries, consistently throughout the day. Of course, it's better to get the fruits themselves, but sometimes even just the fact that the seasons you might not be able to have it, it's always good to have those strategic supplements, particularly if you are quite active as well. um, so yeah, vitamin D is very important, and I think with the climate and everything that we're exposed to, it's even more important to make sure you're getting the D and the D3 and the K2 together. um, and obviously vitamin C, the full range, because that's something that's not stored. The body needs it daily, and it's broccoli, the cruciferous group, is great for vitamin C as well. Um, and I think once you're eating more nutrient dense food, you find that supplements should really just top up. Like, it shouldn't
Mm.
be, your focus shouldn't be just supplements and then you let the
Yeah.
diet, you know, slip away, because if you have that, then it's just not ideal, because it compromises how your body absorbs the supplements, and then you find that you're using supplements but you're not feeling any better, and that's because you've just put too much focus on that, and you've shifted away from actually your foods and what you're eating. So I'd say once you focus on that, you notice that whatever you take is just so much more effective. So having a good multivitamin with high bioavailability, and research on the supplement companies, because not every supplement is out there to actually, get it into you, so to speak. There are companies that are using white label companies. They're not aware of the how they're made, the quality of the ingredients. They just put their brand on it. So just do your research as to the company that's manufacturing, and their ethos and their kind of passions behind, obviously, the brand, because that makes a difference to the quality of the supplements as well.
Yeah, you touched on two really great points there. So the first one about antioxidants, really super important. Could you give us just a brief overview of what they are and why they're so important, just in case anyone listening just doesn't know?
Yeah, sure. Antioxidants are basically uh, molecules that mitigate oxidative stress. So antioxidants are high in fruits and vegetables that have phytonutrients. It's compounds that will support cellular health. and why you want them in your diet daily, and not just daily, kind of strategically throughout the day, is because, like you said, we're faced with so many toxins coming from all different directions, and this creates free radicals in our system. So what antioxidants do is essentially just clean up those free radicals and support positive cellular health. And oxidative stress is what happens when um, free radicals basically run havoc and just continue to be quite high in your system. So you want regular antioxidants to counteract that oxidative stress, which really causes, yeah, it has a lot of side effects in regards to the repercussions of that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it has massive, massive side effects that just cascade throughout the whole body, cause like I said, wreaking havoc everywhere, everywhere they
Yeah.
go. And so thanks for explaining that. So let's move on to lifestyle, because that's such a super important factor in this topic, but also just for like overall health and well-being. Um, Starting with the one we all know, stress.
Good
um,
on.
I'd love for you to just give us a overview on how stress, or if it does, affects fibroids and what impact that can have.
Absolutely. And it's a topic that I'm extremely passionate about because looking back on my fibroid journey, which is what I encourage my clients to do, to kind of, you can learn so much, from analyzing the past and
Mm,
what happened at certain points in regards to timelines. And my personal, when I identified where the fibroids grew very rapidly, surprise, surprise, was when I was going through an extremely stressful period of my
wow.
life. And it's interesting that the two went very close together, and not long after that, I got the diagnosis. So, in my opinion, it plays a huge role particularly in their growth. Um,
Mm,
they could be there, but suddenly it's just the stress hormones. It just erupts them, and they're growing very rapidly. And I think you have to realize that your mind plays such a key role in the manifestation of the stress, physically. So one of the key parts of my journey to mitigate stress is just building the power of my mind, and what I was doing with my mind, and my awareness about what I used to say, that almost instantaneously had an impact on how I felt, and
yeah,
it's remarkable the link what you say and what you think you feel it has on actually your body, and how it internalizes and becomes, whatever conditions, etc. So I think I might have digressed, but
no, I love it. Go for it.
the main focus in regards to addressing stress is working on your mindset, having systems in place to build that up, to increase your emotional intelligence, because every situation we're presented with can either dominate you, derail you,
Mhm.
or just be an alert to, okay, I'm aware of this. And then as you build your emotional intelligence, you're able to be much more objective about situations. So rather than embodying the situation, you actually step back and evaluate it. So you
Yeah,
become so much more objective to things, and that opens up discussions. You might think of, okay, how would this person think of this? How would this person think of this? And it's just training for you to step away from it, kind of put it in the middle, and leave yourself out of it. And I think that's a great way to not carry things and situations, because we can often do that. And then that's when we feel very overwhelmed, because we're almost now that thing when actually you want to step away from it. So that was a big part. And it was very instrumental in my approach to stress, and how I dealt with stressful situations. And of course, changing my approach in regards to exercise, creating time as a non-negotiable to
mm,
do what relaxes me, do what detaches my mind. Meditation has been instrumental. It's even now, it just fascinates me on the impact, just training your mind and being able to switch off it's just so powerful. So this is a very key area to build your awareness in, build your, I suppose, your muscle in. And once you realize how powerful it is, you don't play with your time. You know that you have to have this time for yourself, because that's what allows you to do whatever you need to do day to day. And be a mum, be a wife, whatever. You need that time. So it's a big, um, for me, in my opinion, a big player in these conditions and the severity of them.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Such an important points you made there, especially around having that non-negotiable time. Because one of the things I think we struggle with as a society is making that time and prioritizing our self-care, like you said, the exercise, the stress management, the meditation. You have to really carve out that time,
Mm.
because like I said, we are literally our thoughts, and everything is connected, and what you think and feel is connected. So thank you so much for that. So in terms of if somebody is whether they're experiencing symptoms and based on what we've spoken about, they think they have fibroids or they have a fibroid diagnosis and they definitely know, what are the top three things someone should focus on to just get started on this healing journey?
Okay, I think the first step would be to get that clarification. So, go to their doctor, get a referral for a gynecologist, have the necessary scans, and just get clarity on what's happening
Yeah.
so that you're clear. You know, that would be the first step. And then the second step would be to do an evaluation of, your diet, nutrition, your lifestyle, and see if you can identify areas that do need support, and maybe you need a bit more information about particular areas. That would be the second step. And then the third step would be, once you've identified those areas, if you feel like you can't explore them by yourself, maybe you just feel like you won't follow through or you won't, then get a professional that can support you and guide you, hold you accountable, so that you actually see changes and you get kind of a roadmap of what to do. And that way, not only can you help yourself, you can help fellow friends and loved ones in your circle, because kind of you've taken the time to figure it out. And then obviously you want to share what you've done and how that's helped you. So those would be my three
I
points.
love that third one because I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and having that accountability partner is great because at the end of the day, we're changing behavior, behavior that we've been doing for some of us for decades, and it's hard to do, and it's difficult. So definitely having that support if you can, and having that accountability partner is really, really great. Nina, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. My last question for you. If you were to leave listeners with just one single action takeaway, what would it be?
It would be to have a vision for your health, for your wellness, for your life, and be very obsessed with that vision.
Mm.
Because each day we're bombarded with signals and messages to consume and essentially control us, because that's the truth.
Yeah,
And you're almost taking on somebody else's reality, and it's being kind of forced to be your version of reality. And we know that that's not true.
yeah,
So if you are having any conditions, it just makes it seem even more overwhelming, because you don't have something you're working towards, because you've just consumed the world and their messaging. So I think there's so much power in having your own vision, and creating a movie of it and engaging with that vision before you go to sleep and when you wake up. And literally, it should become so real to you, so that if anything comes to compromise your motivation or how you feel, you're so connected with that vision, you're able to have hope. you're able to say, okay, that's that diagnosis, but actually, I'm very connected with this. So I'm going to do my best to work towards this. And it's just strength. It's focus, it's hope, and we all need it with the world we live in today. So that would be my step.
That's such a great takeaway. I love that. Create your movie, your health movie, and you are the main character. I love it. Absolutely love that. And with that being said, you have a freebie for those that have tuned in today. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my freebie is my ebook that I've just written. So it's the Fibroid Freedom Formula. And it's not just actually for women with fibroids, you could have other womb conditions. And it's just an approach, a step-by-step approach to get that foundation laid so that anything you're doing from that point on is just leverage. So it's a step-by-step guide, and you can get it as an ebook and an audio book. That's my freebie for the listeners. Thank you.
I love that options, and that is going to be available via the link below this video. So definitely pick that up. Sounds fantastic. Nina, this has been a great conversation. So insightful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've had fun too.
I've had a lovely time. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you and your platform and the amazing work you're doing as well, Nicola.
Oh, thank you. Don't forget to grab Nina's freebie below via the link. And thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next interview. Bye for now. Bye.